Exterior, Portland Arcade, night. A mysterious man slowly walks through the neon-lit halls of an arcade, with a murderous look in his... Okay, that's not quite it. Exterior, Portland Arcade, night. A mysterious man slowly walks through the neon... Nope. That's not it. Let's try it again. Exterior, Portland Arcade, night. A mysterious man slowly walks through the neon-lit halls of the arcade with a murderous look in his eyes. Yes, that's it! As you can see, music is important. Luckily for you, there's today's sponsor, MusicBed. With MusicBed, you get access to higher quality music than any other music resource. That means instead of thousands of variations on Mumford & Sons instrumentals, except on digital guitars that sound more like synths, actually, side note, who would want to start an electronic Mumford & Sons cover band? Let's talk after the show. Anyways, you get the real stuff that you would listen to in real life. Great musicians, bands, and composers who pour their hearts into their work. MusicBed even has subscriptions that allow you to have unlimited access to their amazing roster of artists for one monthly or yearly fee, based on what kind of work you do. That's right. So whether you're making wedding videos, streaming a Call of Duty Warzone match, or creating an ad for that beer company that's making seltzers now, MusicBed has a pricing option that's right for you. Seth and I use it, you probably use it, and if you don't, go use coupon code GAMESHOW at checkout to receive your first month free when you purchase an annual subscription and start unlocking your film's full potential.
Okay. Okay.
Is there any
Lilo
Disney
and Stitch,
properties?
right? That's what we're doing? Lilo and Stitch?
Is there any... Yeah, Stitch runs through the jungle at one point. Like, was that Stitch
With
from
Solo?
Lilo and Stitch?
That's what it is.
Stitch
It's about
from Lilo and Stitch? And then they never talk
Solo
about it.
from the 1996 Mario Van Peebles film Solo.
Happy holidays, everyone. I'm Ryan.
And happy holidays, no one. I'm Seth.
And welcome back to the Writer's Room Game Show. It's the podcast where every week we generate an original feature film idea from scratch in under 60 minutes, working from a set of random prompts given to us by a big Hollywood studio.
At the beginning of every episode, the studio, which is really just an iPhone shortcut, assigns us, the contestants, a new project consisting of 4 components. The genre, the tone, the demographic, and a studio mandate, which is basically just a random thing the studio is asking of us, requiring.
And then we have 1 hour to develop a feature film idea that fits the assigned criteria with surprise roadblock along the way.
One surprise roadblock.
Maybe not even one. Sometimes we don't get it.
Sometimes the studio forgets. At the end of the episode, we'll focus group the idea with someone from the assigned target audience and ask them actual dumb focus group questions. 4 specifically, and if they answer with the most positive answers they possibly can and give us a perfect 40, we will win and we will survive and you will love it.
And if they answer negatively and don't give us points, we will quit screenwriting altogether and do it again next week. Seth, we got to remind the people of the WRGS Notes Hotline, Writer's Room Game Show.
Listen here,
Notes
people.
Hotline!
Did you know, people, that we have a Notes Hotline, the WRGS, that's Writer's Room Game Stuff Notes Hotline, 1-866 HEY-WRGS, and you can call that and tell us all your raw thoughts about our ideas. You can literally be a mean person, and we will feature it on the show. You can also be a very creative person who has better ideas than us, and we will play it on the show. In fact, we should play one on the show right now.
Let's hear it. I think we have someone who called in and they left a note on one of our best ever ideas. This is the hit music biopic, Salt and Pepper.
Oh, good.
The true story. I think that's the subtitle of the film. Anyways, someone called in and left us notes on one of, I was being facetious. It was one of our roughest episodes.
Yeah, it's bad. Salt and Pepper's bad.
And so I'm sure whatever this note is will probably be better than what we came up with. So I'm going to play it. Not sure who this is from, but
have we hyped it enough? Should we hype it more? No.
I think we should hype it.
So this is the Salt and Pepper. Definitely kind of a letdown of an episode. Kind of a hard topic. The one gag that I felt like you guys should have hit on is when they're at Sears and there's salt and pepper shakers on their shelves and they're starting their musical career, you should have made like some giant joke about not wanting to sell out because it's I don't want to explain. Okay.
Okay.
Pitches us a joke that since while our titular characters are on the shelf at Sears, salt and pepper shakers waiting to be sold, one proclaims to the other that they don't want to sell out. Whoever this was said, stopped mid-explanation and said, I don't want to explain this joke. And hung up.
Honestly, it's a great joke. I think if the movie was made, that's an easy joke to put in the script. It's I
think in the context of the movie that it's being pitched for, I think it's a fantastic joke. Yeah.
That wonderful idea, salt and pepper. Anyways, people, feel free to call in. We've had a few good ones lately. We had Polybius, our legend, our 80s era arcade legend, and we had a Indiana Jones movie. We had a little heist noir, getaway driver. We had some good stuff the past few weeks. So feel free to call in that hotline and tell us how.
A lot of really good feedback on our episode with Ryan Booth. Soft Air.
Yeah, Soft Air.
Even Elliot came up to me and was like, "That's the most horrifying concept you guys have come up with." He was horrified by the idea of a real gun in an airsoft battle. Yeah. So
anytime I got to that part of the pitch to people, they're like, "Oh,
yeah, Ryan Booth's a monster."
But you can also, we have a Discord now. So you can hop on our Discord. It's in the description. What do you call that? Podcast notes, whatever.
Show notes.
And your show notes in your app. You can also go to writersroomgame.show. Join the Discord. There's a bunch of listeners and fans there. We're talking about episodes, talking about random stuff. That's
also,
great.
rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, please. Go on there. Just go straight to Apple Podcasts and find us, Writers Room Game Show. You don't even have to listen to our podcasts, even though you probably are if you're getting this. But even if you don't like us, just go and say 5 stars and just write the word love.
5 stars.
Just write it in the review.
I don't like them.
Love. Yeah, you can say I don't like them, but do 5 stars. Even 4 stars is good enough. We want to be famous, so we need your help.
On that, we've got all the talking points out of the way. Seth, how are you doing this week?
I'm good, man. It's Thanksgiving week for us.
Yes.
So I know it's confusing based on the narrative we've told in these podcasts. I feel like we've already...
So we had an episode on the week of Thanksgiving, then we had an episode recorded a week before the Thanksgiving that's airing after Thanksgiving, and then this is coming out 2 weeks after Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I believe the version that I just listened to approve, I just approved today.
It was Halloween week.
It was Halloween
and it's coming out the week of Thanksgiving.
And this is the week of Thanksgiving. So who the hell knows what time of year it is? But all I know is that I'm very excited. Thanksgiving has become my favorite holiday, rapidly become my favorite holiday.
That's fun.
It's the least hyped holiday, I feel like. It's like the best ratio of like least amount of hype and most amount of chill and potential for meaningful quality time. I just as a grown up who
That's fun.
No longer gets piles of gifts every year, I've just decided and figured that Thanksgiving is actually the most rewarding holiday.
I'm sure that once my child is old enough to enjoy it as well, it will become one of my favorites.
Kids don't enjoy Thanksgiving. That's my whole point. Christmas is now for the kids. Thanksgiving is for the adults.
Yes, I like that. I'm mostly excited because if you're on the video version, I've got this finally curated comic rack here, and I've got all my Hawkeye comics. I've got 4 full rows of Hawkeye comics.
Oh, that comes out this week, doesn't it?
Yes, Hawkeye comes out this week. I'm very excited. It's
in our tone too. I really like the trailers I've seen so far.
It's both Kate Bishop and Clinton Barton, the Hawkeyes, are some of my favorite superheroes that haven't gotten justice in the MCU. So I'm very excited to see what they do with that.
And she's really great casting.
Oh yeah, I can't wait to see her. But it's fun week.
Hey studio.
I want to take this call. Let's see what we're writing today, Seth. Hello, studio. Yeah. No, Thanksgiving was actually weeks ago. I know, it's confusing. Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah. I'll let Seth know. Okay, thank you so much. All right, you too. Bye.
Did you correct them on there?
They said Happy Thanksgiving.
You said no? No.
Weeks ago. Okay, Seth, what are we writing?
Today we are writing a horror film.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we've done a slasher before. We haven't done a strict horror movie.
Yeah, we're kind of coming out broad. It can be kind of anything. A horror film. The tone is laugh out loud funny. So a horror comedy for... I like that. It's in our wheelhouse. For fans of John Carpenter.
Hey, that's perfect. That's perfect.
And dude, okay. The mandate. It must be, get ready, a direct sequel to the 1996 Mario Van Peebles action thriller Solo.
Holy crap. This is
we got served it. I put it in the generator and forgot that we put that in the generator.
Okay, so
The Writer's Room game show has begun.
a horror comedy directed for fans of John Carpenter. It must be a direct sequel to the Mario Van Peebles movie.
So I don't think either of us have seen.
No, and I don't think anybody that's listening to this has probably seen that movie.
No, so we have to remind everyone by playing the trailer right now.
I will play the trailer. For our audio version, we might need to skip through this a bit, but I'm going to play this.
No. Let's describe what we're seeing.
Okay,
I'm happy to give an audio commentary on what we're seeing. Can you share your screen so I can see it?
Yes, okay. 2-minute trailer to Mario Van Peebles. You're going to have to let me share the screen.
And sharing options. All participants, go.
Okay, sharing screen. Solo, a 1996 movie starring Mario Van Peebles, action star of the time. Me and Seth love this trailer. Love all the backflips.
We ran into this trailer in one of our non-film episodes, right? It was
I can't remember. Oh, we were talking about this was our first episode of the season of the Atrium, and we were talking about.
Are you sure it wasn't in the notes? Well, I feel like it was the notes call.
No, it was the. Well, we talked about it in both episodes actually. Now that I'm remembering, because we played part.
Oh, you're right. Because then we watched the trailer after.
Yes.
That's right.
With backflips. Anyways, let's watch the trailer. Let's listen. We'll describe for our audio listeners. It's a fantastic trailer.
Here goes. 1996 trailer for Solo. Following preview has been approved for all audiences. Triumph Films.
All right, buddy.
Comic Dog's greatest establishment. So we got what sounds like Adrian Brody walking around a. Sorry, right off the bat,
weird robot with muscles, like flesh, but not the skin yet.
This image is just. I think you said in our text exchange, "Kill me."
Yes, kill me. And we've got Adrian Brody, and this thing is watching Michael Jackson on an advertisement.
Jordan.
Sorry, Michael Jordan. Michael Jackson.
Very different.
MJ.
So he says, "What do you want?" I think Adrian Brody says, and the muscle robot, the muscle bot says, points at the TV of Michael Jordan and says, "Like Mike."
Face. Like Mike. You got good taste.
Adrian Brody types in the satellite transmission.
Tied up in this program.
So
and then the guy from War Games
So we've got
starts talking.
We've got a top secret government organization who's creating the perfect human cyborg.
That headbutts with proficiency and slowly reveals itself.
Sending him into war looks like in Vietnam or something.
I'm sorry. There's no way to not laugh at this long slow motion shot of Mario Van Peebles coming out of the water and making very long eye contact with us. All right, so then we have these titles that flashing by in cyber whatever. It's malfunction, evaluation.
So he's growing a conscience. It's this cyborg that's growing a conscience.
Yes. To the figurine of the guy from War Games and the guy from Die Hard 2. I'm forgetting everyone's names. I know these actors' names, but my brain can't compute because it's overloading.
There you go, backflips. Here they come.
Time for a recall.
So they're flying helicopters into the side of mountains, kicking people through walls.
Destroy all records, the most riveting trailer text. And now he's flipping. Inexplicably flipping away from...
Backflips over and over.
I think we need to see the backflips one more time. I think it's just important.
So he is Solo. That's his name.
Yes.
Damn it.
Deny any knowledge.
I want this thing over with now.
We're the only two of our kind, Solo. Your design is flawed.
Ooh, so
For the next
I guess what's his name?
He's another Solo. Yes, we've got an evil Solo that doesn't have a conscience.
Maybe
Looks like
his
they're
name is
battling. Duo.
Mario Van Peebles is Solo and very stretched out, possibly by accident due to anamorphic transform.
Yes.
titles.
Yes, but we will be recreating it in our teaser this week.
Apparently, it is based on the novel Weapon by Robert Wilson.
Fun thing for this week, go to the beginning, the Triumph logo.
Yeah.
Because it's an Albertus font, which is the classic John Carpenter's font.
Oh yeah, type nerds. We haven't gotten to talk. We need a whole other podcast called Talking Type.
And then
with Polly and Worley.
we got Souvenir Black on the bottom, which is another
Yes,
fun font.
Oh my God, Albertus and Souvenir in one frame.
Fun stuff. Okay, so that was Solus.
This has been Talking Type with Polly and Worley.
That would actually be a really fun podcast.
I actually agree.
But okay, so we're doing it. I love that we spent 5 minutes analyzing that trailer. I just gonna keep watching it, to be honest.
I think it's important.
And now in my suggested products on YouTube, an ad, there's like signed photos of Mario Van Peebles and the solo script. It's incredible. But okay, so we have this action star, Mario Van Peebles, who has not really a likeness to Michael Jordan, but he's bald and black.
Yeah.
And
That's really all it was.
I'm going to assume by the end of Solo, we haven't seen the movie. We probably need to look at where it ends up. So that
I'll read the last paragraph of the Wikipedia.
Yes,
Will that help us?
Yes. But
Rio is betrayed by Madden. You go ahead.
No. I want to listen.
Rio is betrayed by Madden. Real quick, Madden. Colonel Frank Madden is William Sadler. That's the villain from Die Hard 2. That's the bad guy in this. Who tries to kill Solo with an automatic grenade launcher. Oh no. Solo is able to fight Madden in hand-to-hand combat and non-fatally break his spine. That's possible? Yeah, I guess it is. John Locke lost. Suddenly, and he was real, suddenly a helicopter delivers a more powerful version of the android, in parentheses, Sadler. Oh.
Another one?
Another one. There's multiple Maddens, which is armed with a multi-barreled gun and has Madden's face. So Madden was real, and he had his own. Okay.
Oh, so the human version of him.
The Mark II kills Madden, and proceeds to hunt down Solo.
Oh, so the human version of Madden has been killed by the android version of him, the perfected version, and he's hunting down Solo. Okay, continue.
So, the Solo is able to save the villagers and beat the Mark II android using his acquired bluffing skills. Oh. He learned to bluff.
Can't do that as a android.
No. That's why robots are notoriously bad at poker. After the temple, the two androids fought in collapses. I don't know. Causing the military to pull out, believing both units are destroyed and unrecoverable. Miguel mourns Solo. Miguel is... No one knows. Mourns Solo, believing he was destroyed by the cave-in? I don't know. But Miguel starts to hear Solo laughing as he knows he has earned his freedom.
Nice.
So Solo is laughing. He's free.
And then we have Adrian Brody, who I assume is that character that found him.
He's Dr. Bill Stewart. I don't know who Miguel is.
Interesting. Okay, so it's sort of an open ending where he can be free. So we can kind of start. We can do whatever we want with this. We just use the Solo character, and I hear horror and cyborg, and I immediately go to Terminator, which is obviously the.
Me too. That's exactly where I went.
So, and then John Carpenter's Terminator would be so badass.
It would be very well. I've always thought Terminator feels like Halloween. Like a sci-fi Halloween.
That's basically John Carpenter's Terminator.
Yeah,
it's kind of fun. Whatever. I'm best friends with John Carpenter.
Do it. Tell the people.
I had a Zoom call with the guy. 2 minutes.
The Terminator?
Yeah, with the Terminator. No, with John Carpenter.
Hello, Polly. I'm going to kill you. This is my really good impression of Terminator.
You're not as intimidating on a Zoom call, Mr. Terminator.
Full daylight, sitting. All right, sorry. Continue.
No, but I won this little contest, and it was like with a Comic-Con kind of thing. So I got to be on a Zoom call with John Carpenter for literally 2 minutes. There's a countdown, but it was literally time for 1 or 2 questions. And of course, he starts by, I say I'm from Texas, and he asked me about Governor Greg Abbott. And I basically have to tell him, I'd rather not spend this time talking to one of my favorite directors all the time, talking about my stupid Republican governor. And he just laughs, of course. Anyways, he ended up telling me
that's great, because right there you showed him that you were good folks.
Fellow comrade.
What's the term? Yeah, fellow comrade.
But no, it was fun. It was inspirational because I was able to ask him what his favorite project to work on was and why, and he told an incredible answer about he loved making Halloween because it was just a group of friends making a movie together, and he's never really been able to get that same experience on his big productions, and he just really enjoys making movies with friends. And then he was and the thing was great too because we worked the hardest ever on that movie, and then nobody liked it, and then decades decades later, everybody loves it, and it's like a masterpiece now. So he's like, it was nice to finally get that appreciation. Anyways, it was great, but I think we both are huge fans. And John Carpenter to me is his movies are. One, low budget, typically. He's only had a budget on a few movies, and the studios did not continue giving him big budgets. Yeah. But he's able to do a lot with the low budget. And then
that's what's so great about Carpenter is what he's able to do with low budget and how he's able to lean the story in the direction, onto the low budgetness of it, and actually use it as a feature rather than a bug.
Totally. And I think it could be fun doing Solo, which seems like it's not a huge budget action. Like it seems like kind of a direct VHS kind of feel. Yeah. Like it'd be fun early John Carpenter, it's like you have these incredible Stan Winston, like practical effects. It'd be fun to do like something like that these days. That is like, I guess depending on what we're doing with the cyborg movie.
Well, it's laugh out loud funny, which makes me think of like you and I have actually joked about how we would 100% sit down and write a sequel to or remake of Solo. Yes. That's like an action comedy where
I forgot about the LOL part. That's great.
We ran into that because we were joking about the trailer and how like we were trying to understand what would lead to the flipping scene, like why he would be flipping away from the explosion. And the only explanation we can come up with was that he malfunctioned and he was only able to flip.
That was his only movement. It's backflipping.
And I'm like, oh my God, we can do it here. We can literally do that whenever and however we want.
And it's like, do you have to flip? He's like, I can do back handspring too.
You have to flip those. Is a great question. But I also feel like Carpenter is like paranoia is a thing that I think of, and not just because of the thing, but it's really more just like that lurking.
They live, and there's so many other that it's that
this like lurking, ominous, like sinister
something is
force.
Among us.
Huh?
Something is among us.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Also anti-capitalist, which I don't know if we need to lean on in Solo, but so many of his movies are sort of anti-government, anti-capitalist sort of.
They are. Which I think we're going to need to if he's a government-created thing.
Yeah, definitely.
And he also, most of his like...
A fairly super cool protagonist too, like badass.
Overly badass and cool, like almost like comically badass and cool to the point of parody, right?
Yes.
Like,
and it was, it was definitely that and Big Trouble in Little China and
Big Trouble.
Live. Both are just like parodies of cool guys. Where I was actually listening to, do you ever listen to Blank Check podcast?
No, I'm aware of it though.
Okay, so they're doing a John Carpenter series right now. They're about to finish it, but They Live episode basically talked about how Roddy Piper, the guy, the wrestler who played the main character, read the script, and this is the kind of guy that stars in John Carpenter movies. But he read the script and he's like, he basically wrote me as the character, so I figured I might as well play the character. He's like, he's just basically writing WWE wrestlers as the protagonist of his, weird horror action movie. So. Anyways, so that I think that would be fun too. If Solo can be the protagonist, but he could also possibly be the villain in this if he malfunctions. That might be people of that like the first one might not like that change. It's almost like opposite of Terminator.
It's many fans. Well, yeah, something is like, how can we subvert the Terminator? Because it feels like we're leaning in the Terminator direction. So how can we subvert that in the way that Carpenter would? Like, what would Carpenter's Terminator actually be like if it was in the They Live or Kurt Russell era of Carpenter movies?
Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah, where do we start with this? Do we pick up?
We got to at least pick up. Like, think about. Okay, do we age it with Van Peebles? Like, you know what I mean? Like, how old is?
I mean, I don't know. I don't even know if he's still alive. I'm assuming he's still alive.
He is. He's 64.
So what if we did a Tron Legacy or like Terminator Genesis kind of thing and de-aged him and kept him his same age, but it's in modern times. So like, of course, like maybe we bring back a few characters from the first Solo and they've aged, but he's the same because he's a robot.
They might all be dead. Like, well, they're characters.
Yes.
It seems like Adrian Brody's character is dead.
Dang, that's the one person I feel like I would want to bring back just because it's Adrian Brody
and Barry Corbin, but I guarantee you that guy is dead because he was the bad guy.
Okay, well,
he's the
get
on the sack guy from War Games who says "get on the sack" about 20,000 times.
Let's just do it standalone. Almost like it's a. Let's just assume nobody's ever seen the first Solo movie because
we're talking about a movie about a government super soldier from the early 90s.
Yeah.
That's our main character. You don't ever have to have heard of Solo, but we're going to call the film Duo, or what do we call the film? Duet?
Duet. It's got to be Duet.
All right, Duet.
And but if we call it Duet, we need like another robot that is what if, okay, so the secret organization that created Solo and created this bad guy Solo, they've been dormant for a long time, but we find out that, and what would Carpenter do? WWJCD.
Well, I mean, I would say
if it's him trying, he's still a good guy, and we sort of have this. He's trying to take out this bad robot, but he's malfunctioning as well.
Well, he doesn't work. He's old. Like no matter what, he's got to be malfunctioning.
So you're saying Solo has aged?
I mean, no, just in the way that machinery does.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Okay,
like,
gotcha. Yeah, he's not like an eternal. He's an actual mechanical being that is rusting instead.
Yeah, exactly. He is a mechanical robot designed by the military in 1996.
So I like the thought of him, like his skin's decomposed. It's not like he's getting old. It's just like decomposing on his face, almost like body horror style. And he moves like an old man, but that's just because he's like his parts are rusting and he's
completely like the Chuck E. Cheese things from Ramos Fowl. So we last saw him in Central America. So is he still down there, or is he discovered by? It's not really Carpenter to have him be discovered by some kids. We don't want to go Amblin-y with this, but I
get the vibe that John Carpenter doesn't like kids based on like Christine and movies that he's like the kids are being terrorized. Halloween.
So he's our main character, and I don't feel like I don't know if we want to do something where it's like we establish the bad guys first and then we have to go find the good guy. I feel like the discovery of the good guy, or the good guy should be the main character. Like we should find the good guy, be with the good guy. You know what I mean? And
definitely. So what if he's living there? This guy seems, just from the trailer, obviously we haven't seen the movie, seems like he would make a friend or two. Like it seems like he wouldn't be alone, even though he's a robot. Like I feel like he'd have some sort of ally that.
What if you give him like a trench coat and a hood? Give him something to wear, like we don't see his face, like his gloves and stuff,
like
and
Darkman or something.
Yeah, Darkman is exactly the image I had. Something like that.
Yeah. I love that.
Like Darkman meets Deckard from Blade Runner.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
That kind of vibe.
Yes.
Right.
Well, I think let's place it. What if it is in Central America, or like I feel like a setting might inspire us. I'm still struggling trying to find out what the bad guys, or like what the big incident, or like you need something ironic or something.
Could we treat him just like the cowboy, the former the former legendary bandit who's like just happens to be pulled into the whole Western motif of like the old legendary bandit killer or whatever, who's like reluctantly pulled into a story that is not tied to their past or anything like that. It's literally just they're pulled in like
yes.
You know what I mean?
What if there's some sort of, let's say in the past 30 years, not 30, I guess it's been 25 years since 1996 when it came out.
Yeah.
Let's say he's been living, sort of being the protector of of a village or something, and it's been going great, but he's decomposing, he's getting old, and he's sort of losing the ability to be the protector of this place. He gets wrapped into, like what you're saying, to some sort of bigger, plot or something.
I like is this lets Peebles still play the role, and it kind of Mandalorians it a little bit to where we don't see his face most of the time.
Yeah. And there's got to be something like one of the bad guys, or even if he become almost like Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, if there's some sort of malfunction or some sort of there's some kind of thing he's reliant on to stay whatever, like some kind lucid,
of fluid
where
of some kind.
He can control it, but there's something that's going wrong that's causing him. I don't want to bring up Malignant, but there's something that he'll go into this like sort of horrific, murderous rage. And
Iron Giant, you're talking about the
and then come back, and he's like trying to stop it so that he can. And it's kind of like, I don't know. There's because I feel like, to me, the horror of it comes from he spent this entire first movie basically becoming more human. And so, like, for him, the biggest fear would be, like, being turned back into what he once was, which is, like, fully robot and controlled by the government or whatever. So it's, like, sort of using that fear as, it's still, I still don't know what the actual story would be from that.
Yeah, it still feels like it feels like it needs to be like I do like the idea of like he's doing something to keep his like evil robot at bay, to where if he lost that, then he's like, screwed, or we're screwed or whatever. Yeah. But
we could just straight up go Terminator with it and have another
robot
evil robot, and he's sort of, he has to use his brain more than his strength and skills because he's getting old as a robot. And so it's like this, we've got the horror movie that's from the, this Terminator taking people out, this new solo duet, taking people out. Maybe it becomes sort of a detective story where it's like Solo as, I don't know, I'm riffing here.
No, like a detective story. See, because I was going toward like a True Grit kind of a thing, or what if you gave him a companion, like somebody like Logan, kind of like where you gave him a...
Dude, if he builds a little Solo...
Or I'm thinking if like somebody came to like this town knowing that he protected this town.
Yes,
like
totally.
They were looking for him for protection, and there was another evil android like searching for them. Maybe it was the child of a dictator or something like that, or it was I
like the child element just because I see the poster that says duet, and it's like an old Solo and then like a little kid or something.
Yeah,
and it's like
that's
kid. And the laugh out loud moments would just be sort of really hamming it up with, just kind of going over the top with stuff, having him malfunctioning and having to backflip everywhere.
I honestly think it's like that's the whole idea, is that we play up. That's what it is, dude. We got to make a big like jungle action film, like Commando, Predator, or this movie Solo.
Straight up Predator, yeah.
And we use the robot of it all to justify the big ridiculous jokes of it all. So what's funny is I directed a clip from a fictional film within a short that a friend of mine made. Like, I want to say 20 years ago, but it wasn't. It was like 10, 15 years ago, maybe. And 15. And it was like it was jokingly like a Commando kind of parody. And we were going to we talked for years about doing a feature version of it. And my favorite joke that I ever came up with for it that I never have gotten to use since, that I've now hyped in this introduction to it, is a guy leading his squad into the jungle and then being like, hey Sarge, what do you think what do you think the chances are of us getting out of this alive? And I'm going 0%. I just always thought the answer 0% was such a shitty leader move as a leader. It's such a hilarious, like, macho thing to say, to brag about.
Kill the vibe.
To brag about completely dooming your subordinates.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. I like the idea too of, let's say he's getting old and rusty. He's got this small companion that he meets that he's trying to protect. And if there's people dying off in this village or something, like there's these murders happening we're seeing the scenes. It's like would he be sleeping? Maybe he's recharging. That's what he does when he sleeps. Like, and these murderers are happening.
He's solar powered with his sun.
Yes. So
that's actually great, because then he can be screwed if like it's night or raining or anything.
Yes, that's great. But it's like when he's not around, we see these sort of murders happening, and it's like this, veiled figure that's making these brutal murders or whatever. And then eventually we get a scene where it's like a crowd of people. There's all this pandemonium, and he's sort of scanning the crowd, and we see his point of view. It's the really crappy CRT sort of, and he scans everybody, and he realizes one of them's like a robot or an android, and we get this big like scary moment where he's like in fear. He's like, oh no, like they're back. They found me. And we have this evil robot villain that he has to try to protect this person while also fight them off. And he's old and rusty.
And while protecting this person, he suddenly becomes like, he gets on the government's radar again. And so now
his freedom is risked.
And it's Carpenter, so we can't ever really show the government like control room or anything. We just need to be aware by people showing up, by like, dudes in suits or other robots like showing up.
And we can kind of retcon him in from being like this silent, sort of like he doesn't really talk much, to him only saying like really cool one-liners, because that's what
all
I feel
he
like
says.
that's the John Carpenter thing. It's like here to kick ass and chew bubblegum kind of thing.
It's that those kind of lines. He can just be
yes.
like, and the kid, whoever's with him, can be like, why would like?
Yes,
that's just so insensitive. Many people have just died.
Oh, sounds like we're getting
Mandate.
facts. That must be our roadblock. You getting it too, Seth?
Yeah.
Paper coming through your fax machine?
Yes. It's usually what comes through my fax machine.
I'm actually, there it is. So what do we get, Seth?
Oh, well, Rene might not want to cut yet because he might need to hear me say this. Good God, this mandate is rough. Cut. And now back. Rene leaves this part in. All right, here we go.
I'm very scared. I'm scared, Seth.
So this comes from one of our Discord randos, one of our
Discord
roomies.
randos.
Our
Yes, our
roomies, as
roomies.
I believe we're going to start calling
But
our
our
fans.
listeners, yeah.
Named Brian the White, who I can only assume is a shark. Disney just bought the studio, and now the story must also tie into an established Disney property.
Oh, God. Oh,
Okay.
God.
Okay.
Is there any
Lilo and
Disney
Stitch,
properties?
right? That's what we're doing? Lilo and Stitch?
Is there any... Yeah, Stitch runs through the jungle at one point. Like, was that Stitch
With
from
Solo?
Lilo and
That's
Was
what
that
it is. It's
Stitch
about
from Lilo and Stitch? And then they never talk
Solo
about it.
from the 1996 Mario Van Peebles film Solo.
Is there any Disney properties with like robots or like a... Maybe we...
Big Hero 6.
That's interesting.
Iron Giant's not Disney.
Well, maybe we just say I don't want to half-ass this. I don't feel like we need to like put a Disney property right up front like this.
I don't want to either, but
this,
I mean,
this could be one of their Hulu fairs. They it's very loosely.
I mean, they said Disney property, not Buena Vista or anything like that. Like,
Because if we have like
so Mars needs moms, right? That's what we're going with.
this is rough. We were just getting somewhere, but
I mean,
this is
look,
definitely a roadblock.
Treasure Planet, Flight of the Navigator.
That's
I'm not
Disney?
against Lilo and Stitch, to be completely honest.
I just don't know. I guess
Real Steel.
Real Steel. I like that.
I never saw it, but it's got
That
robots.
movie was awesome. You would like Real Steel a lot, actually.
Really?
Yeah. Elliot would too, I think. It would give it an 8.5 out of 10. Which is near
He's
perfect.
been listening to this, by the way. He's going to love.
That's good. Yeah, Real Steel is really cool. Because it's like, how do we even, put that into the story other than maybe the villainous robot organization is different than the one from the first movie? We tie that into this, sort of corporation that's in a Disney property. Because this whole assignment in general, it's like we need a direct sequel to this obscure action movie from the 90s, but also Disney is producing it and it needs to tie into a Disney property.
Meet the Robinsons.
I don't think I saw that one, but that one was like future robot kind of thing, right?
It was a robot kind of thing. There's also any of the Medfield College movies, which have Kurt Russell in them, which is like the Computer Wore Tennis Shoes.
I've never heard of this movie.
The Computer Wore Tennis Shoes?
Never. I don't know any of these movies.
Look it up.
The Computer or Tennis Shoes.
1969 American comedy film starring Kurt Russell,
this is
Cesar
early
Romero.
Kurt Russell.
Very early, like
is he a
fetus Kurt
child?
Russell. His name is Dexter Riley, and his friends attend a small private Medfield College, which is also the same school where Flubber takes place and
No
many
way.
other films. The students persuade healthy businessman A.J. Arno to donate an old computer to the college.
Is Medfield
Arno
College
is
fictional?
It is fictional. Arno is secretly the head of a large illegal gambling ring, which used the computer for its operations. While installing a replacement computer part during a thunderstorm, never do this. Riley receives an electric shock and becomes a human computer. He now has a superhuman mathematical talent, can read and remember the contents of the encyclopedia volume in a few minutes. He can speak a language fluently after reading one textbook.
This seems like the perfect thing to incorporate into
Kurt Russell as this particular character from the Computer Wore Tennis
he
Shoes.
turns back into a
I don't
human by
remember.
the end.
Oh, returns his mental abilities to normal. However, one of his friends, Skylar, is able to answer the final question. Yeah, he turns back into the computer.
But maybe that experience, let's say this movie ends. I don't know if there's sequels to this specific movie with the same characters. But let's just
I don't
say,
think the same characters.
let's just say Dexter Riley, played by Kurt Russell, grows up and he uses his knowledge as a computer to
He
start
was in several sequels.
to...
Now you see him, now you don't, and the strongest man in the world.
Okay, I don't care about the sequels, but let's say Dexter Riley got into computer programming, or he started some sort of a company, or he gets interested in the Solo project from 1996. He's been looking for Solo. He heard that he was still alive, and he wanted to sort of investigate and ask some questions because he's been wanting to start a project of his own, creating these AI, robots or whatever. And so maybe that is sort of an inciting incident or something where he comes to the jungle and he finds Solo, and we find out that he was actually being followed by someone who was also trying to find Solo to kill him or something. And the bad guy, he leads the bad guy to the jungle where Solo is. I'm just spitballing here, but I'm like, that's one way we can get a current aged Kurt Russell into our John Carpenter movie.
So remind me, he's Dexter Riley, but he's the head of this.
He might be the head of, or he's just like a independent sort of, inventor or whatever you have. Like, not like Robin Williams and Flubber, but because that was obviously a whole other thing.
Yeah. Which also in the Medfield College universe, but he would be more like, he's
been researching this program that was this secret thing, and he's finding, I don't know, documents or floppy disk or something that revealed all of this information about the Solo project, and he saw that there was Solos out there still alive, so he's been looking for Solo for decades or something, or 10 years or whatever, and he finally found, I don't know, some trace of him in the jungle, so he's been looking for him, and he finally finds him.
And he's a good guy though, right? He's looking for him
good
too.
Guy.
Okay.
I think that could be an end to the bad guys finding the jungle, or the bad guys finding Solo is like maybe they follow Dexter Riley because he has all this information on. And not to freak out, we have 14 minutes left.
That's more than I thought we had.
I just looked at the timer. So yeah, I don't know.
It makes sense. Dexter Riley grew up to be by the way, just a little bit of trivia. The Computer Wore Tennis Shoes was remade in 95 as a Disney Channel movie directed by Peyton Reed. Anyway.
Nice. That's fun.
It would make sense that this character would grow up to be kind of a mad scientist in a way, but like a well-funded, like a modern day Nikola Tesla, if you will, but cool and awesome.
Yeah.
And
I just imagine him as like not Snake Plissken or McGreedy, like not quite as like badass and hardened as the other Kurt Russell characters.
Correct.
But he's still got that kind of swagger that we expect from Kurt Russell.
I like making him kind of a nerd, actually. I think that's fun if you did Kurt Russell kind of the nerd.
That'd be pretty funny to see Kurt. That'd be pretty laugh out loud if he was sort of a geek.
If he was kind of the nerd and you pair him with Solo, so you have the Computer Who Wore Tennis Shoes and Solo together.
Yes.
Saving this Central American village or town,
which the Computer Who Wore Tennis Shoes is an alternate title for Solo as well, because he's
it's true. Oh my god, Computer Who Wore Jordans. Yeah. 100%.
Okay, so
that's kind of what it needs to be called, is the Computer Who Wore Jordans.
I like that. Totally. So we still are struggling with our antagonist. I like the evil robot that is like very modern, and it's like the Terminator 3, how it's like the sort of evolved version of
the thing with this kind of movie is we're making it feel like you don't have to see the originals. Either original is that like the movie's not about the bad guy, it's about the good guys. And the bad guy is there lurking in the background of the story, starting at the beginning.
I feel like that's our horror. The bad guy is the horror element that we sort of we cut back to, and we sort of get that lurking tension that's building. But we're establishing the whole first half of the movie, our characters and the struggles, before we really get to sort of. To me, the horror aspect is like this robot is getting closer and making these murders and sort of becoming a threat. While we don't really know who they are until it's revealed. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. And something that's interesting that might be helpful is that these Medfield College movies, like the Computer Who Wore Tennis Shoes stuff, the bad guys were all like crime bosses and like gambling ring like bosses, like very strange, very 60s. But they were like corrupt businessman AJ Arno was like the main oh my god, AJ Arno, we just found it. That's who it was. It was Cesar Romero, who was the Joker in the original Batmans.
Nice.
The Adam West Batmans, I'm pretty sure. He's like this secret technology-based crime boss in the first one. Technology-based crime boss. In the second one, he's a corrupt businessman. In the third one, he's like a thug hired by competing cereal companies. Oh boy. So what if it's AJ Arno who's looking for Riley, who's like hunting Riley
And we just recast that character.
with someone who's played the Joker.
He'd be so old.
I don't know. Cesar Romero, it sounds like we go for like No Country.
Oh, yeah. Why? We just talked about it. Like,
Ricky Ricardo. Yeah.
Benicio del Toro?
No, Benicio del Toro. Hell yeah. But
Oh,
no,
no,
I'm thinking of...
what's his name?
He plays Ricky Ricardo in the
I
new
know,
Aaron Sorkin
I know.
Lucy movie.
Why are we blanking on his name? No Country for Old Men.
Javier Bardem.
Javier Bardem. That's what it is.
Benicio del Toro or Javier Bardem, both.
Yes, that would be great. That'd be a great villain. And we just make it sort of this ridiculous, what would be very John Carpenter is a sort of mustache.
He's the robot. He's a robot version of AJ Arno.
Yes, they've created. Because if he's a technology-based kind of guy, let's say, because this guy would easily be dead if we're actually aging them up from the original computer who wore tennis shoes. So let's say before he died, he worked with the company who created Solo to create a perfect like cyborg version of him so that he could live on once he dies.
I'm all about it.
And we have instead of Cesar Romero, we have Javier Bardem playing playing Cesar Romero as AJ Arno.
Yeah, playing AJ Arno. Yeah,
yeah.
the AJ, the cybernetic AJ Arno, like the cyborg version of.
And I like that too because if I haven't seen the movie, but if he's anything like his Joker, like is he sort of mustache twirling villain, like over the top? I
don't remember.
Okay,
but let's look up.
I feel like that's a very John Carpenter thing to have, at least in our LOL tone, like have a sort of over the top kind of comedic, like ridiculous villain, but he's also committing these really atrocious, like rated R murders on people. That's like way too much. Like it's very gory and like almost campy, like that They Live or Big Trouble in Little China. So I think that could totally work with our tone as well. And so maybe there's something about I love the idea of us making a sequel to two movies that I've never seen. And it's basically a standalone, like really weird horror action comedy that is using characters from these movies, but you don't have to see those movies to understand the plot of this movie. What a ridiculous thing.
I agree. Hey, it's me, Seth. You probably know or assume that Polly and I are more than just podcast hosts. We're friends, but as you probably suspected, we're also more than friends. We're writers and directors who make money writing and directing commercials and branded shorts and stuff. When you do this stuff for years on years, you develop your own habits and workflows for streamlining the work. And on occasion, a random townsperson will happen to notice these habits, and they'll say, "Hey pal, just what the hell do you think you're doing?" And you explain, "Well, this is just how I plan a shot list," or "This is how I outline a story," or "This is how I dispose of a body." For years, whenever I talk about my story outlining process, where I visualize a story on a clock and use symmetry to fill in gaps and organically find a structure, people would see this and kind of freak out over it. So in 2017, I launched a Kickstarter with my friends Ann Fogerty and Micah Lanier to make the Story Clock notebook based on that Story Clock process. And people freaked out over that enough for us to start a company called Plot Devices, where we continue to make and sell notebooks and workbooks based on my own workflows and process as a writer and director, from story clocking and outlining to shot listing and storyboarding. I am told by randos everywhere that these products have helped make writing way less daunting and intimidating for them in their own work. So head over to plotdevices.co and learn about how you can have less money and more Plot Devices products. Use coupon code GAMESHOW to get 20% off your first order.
So what do you think because we've gone from bad guy is trying to find this kid that Solo is protecting and he'll stop at nothing to murder the kid. But then we also have this AJ Arno cyborg that maybe follows Kurt Russell's Dexter Riley to the jungle. Maybe he's after, maybe that's what it is. Maybe he's after Dexter to murder Dexter, and Dexter finds Solo basically for protection, maybe? Is this too Terminator?
Or does Dexter to save him? Does he know that Arno is coming for him?
That's good.
And he's probably going to kill the entire village to get him.
What if he's always known where Solo was, but he was protected. He knew that Solo, all he wanted was a life of freedom and exile, so he sort of protected him.
He respected Solo. He's on his radar because he's aware of all these robots, which, by the way, we can tie into all these Disney robot
Yes, we got Big Hero 6. We've got
That's the universe that we're hinting at. But for now, our main character is Solo, is the Deckard Darkman Solo, Central America, who protects this village, but was
just
a loner.
tiny village in Vietnam or something.
And then
like
one
that.
day, Javier Bardem bot AJ Android shows up. And they have and
they showed up. He's backflipping all over the place.
Yeah, and Solo's almost taken out, right?
Oh,
and
dude,
then
and this would be good.
Someone
too
swoops in and saves him, and that person that saves him is Dexter Riley.
Yes,
who
I would especially love it too if it's sort of like the Fight and They Live, where it's just like 15 minutes of two guys just brawling, and it's not like a super modern sort of like well choreographed thing. It's like they're just hitting each other. And
let's also Rene, real quick,
and
pull up these images real quick. I'd like to show Paul. You texted me this the other day.
Yes.
That fight sequence, the way it's scripted.
Yes, John
Paulie,
Carpenter.
can you read it for the audio?
Yes, I'll read it. But if you've seen They Live, which we've been referencing a lot, because I just feel like the tone of it is so great for this. But did I text you this or did I Slack you it? You remember?
I think you texted it to me.
So in They Live, there's a 15-minute fight scene where it's basically like Roddy Piper is trying to convince Keith David to put on these glasses, and he won't put on the glasses. And it's basically a 10 or 15-minute fight scene. I'll read the script. We're going to put it on the screen for listeners. Just listen. So we've got Nada saying, "I'm trying to save you and your family's life." Frank says, "You couldn't even save your own." Then Nada punches him, smashes fast right into Frank, sending Frank to the pavement. Frank sits up, looks at Nada. "I'm giving you a choice. Either you put on these glasses or I'll start eating that trash can over there." Continued on the next page. Slowly, Frank gets to his feet. "Frank, not this year." We begin the fight in the alley as Nada and Frank go at each other. And then a blank page. Continued. The next page. The fight. Continued. The next page. The fight. Continued. The next page.
It's all it says on the page.
Fight still continued. It says still continued. And then the last page, the fight continued. Finally, after Nada and Frank have beaten each other. So it's like...
this is my kind of writing. It's so good. It's so
great.
Practical for production.
He knows he's directing it. So he's just like, whatever, we fight. They don't have fight
It gives you the page count that it requires, but it also it also rewards you for reading. It's so good.
Genius. So I would love for that fight to just sort of be a brawl at first, and I'd love for Solo to sort of get the crap beat out of him because he's sort of just like, he's hanging on by a thread with he needs oil, he needs some new parts. And then of course Dexter saves him. At which point, I think at that point, are we sort of in our act 2 of 4? Because I feel like...
I think Dexter saves him. Not yet. I think it's like the Dexter saves him and that's like the inciting incident.
I feel like we
right?
need to sort of meet him and his, and kind of see him.
Or no, it would take us into act 2 because then think of like Lego Movie when Wildstyle shows up and rescues Emmett and takes him to Wild Wild Westland. That kicks us into act 2. It's her and she's the B story. So her introduction takes us into act 2, and then the story kind of slows down a bit as we get into like the unknown world. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I actually think you're right. That would take us into act 2.
We should talk plot real quick because we have 3 minutes. So the
first act is about this mystery, this like dude who's shown up and is like committing these murders. And so, and act 1 is all about like building up to like it's kind of a detective story.
Yeah, him trying to figure
out.
He's investigating these dead bodies, sort of like scanning it with his computer stuff.
We're also seeing his like daily routine of the amount of charge he needs during the day how at night he goes hunting.
Him. He's sort of this dark figure that protector. And then one day maybe he's scanning. There's pandemonium in the village. He's scanning and he sees that one of them is a mechanical like robot or whatever, and it sees him, and that's when they have their brawl.
This big brawl that lasts for like 15 minutes. Right?
It's just like no music. It cuts out. He's trying to do backflips and stuff, but it doesn't quite work as well as before.
Oh, you want to save him for act 3. You want to save those backflips.
Yes, he's got to get fixed or something first. And he's about to get murdered when Dexter Riley swoops in, delivers a blow to AJ Arno, and saves him. Maybe we have a big exposition dump about, why this is happening. I feel like...
But the two of them are at odds. He's like, Solo
he's like,
is not interested in hearing what he has to say.
Just let him kill me.
Yeah.
Because I like the idea of he's a robot, so it's like there's not like an end to like. But now that he's developed a conscience and human feelings, he's like, I'm old. I'm getting too old for this shit.
That's when he saves him. It's because he's just like he's ready to die, and that's when Dexter Riley saves him. And Dexter Riley saves him because he's got all these like contraptions and devices that allow like weapons that he's built that allow him to like.
Yeah. What if his thing too?
He's like Batman.
Dexter Riley is sort of like he tells Solo, you represent hope and like you represent like the future of technology.
Yeah, because you grew a conscience.
Yeah, he's like, if
great.
If that can happen to you, like who knows what else we can create and do better for the world. He's like,
then our hero is an android, is an old dying android in Central America with a conscience. That's badass. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah, and so and sort of he basically inspires him to get back up, and he's like, Dexter, maybe he can help build him back up. And I don't know if it works for the rest of our story for AJ Arno to sort of be this looming threat that continues, like it follows, it just continues it just never stops. He's going to keep coming until we can defeat him. He's going to keep,
100%.
He'll kill anybody in his way to get to you.
And Dexter Riley's all about protecting Solo,
yeah,
and getting him rebuilt, and maybe they need to find the right parts to get him back to fully functioning.
Yes, and we can.
And so that's what the journey is.
Yes, the journey. Yeah,
Darren's in the waiting room, by the way.
I think that works. Yeah, we're out of time.
Time to pitch your movie.
I think I like where we're going with this. I'm not like fully convinced this is our entire film, but I really like where it's going. Like I said, I love the idea of a sequel to 2 movies that I've never seen. That is a standalone.
Is it called Duet or The Computer Wore Jordans?
What do you prefer? Because The Computer Wore Jordans doesn't read to me like a John Carpenter horror movie. Like fans of John Carpenter wouldn't see a movie called
John Carpenter's The Computer Who Wore Jordans.
That's it. That's it right there. Holy crap. John, I'm so sorry. What's funny too is John Carpenter now is just sort of a grumpy old man.
Yeah.
And some of I share this every year on his birthday. But
his video game quote?
Yes, there's an incredible quote where he like talks about like someone asked him about like remakes, like how do you feel about people remaking your films? And he's like, I mean, as long as I get paid, I'm happy. And then he like talks about, he's like, as long as I get paid and I can continue to play NBA 2K on my PlayStation, I'm happy. I'm like, holy crap, this guy's awesome.
Speaking of awesome, I'm letting Darren in.
Okay, let's go to the focus group.
He is literally my best friend, my childhood best friend, and adulthood best friend. He is one of the funniest human beings I've ever met, one of the smartest, most wonderful human beings. I am literally hyping the living shit out of this man because I love him. You may have seen him in some of my short films like Real Gone and Tempo, and even further than that. He's also he has an accomplished career outside of my short films as well that I know has no interest in me talking about on this podcast. But please welcome my good friend Darren Vanderhoff.
Darren!
Welcome. Thank you. Hello.
No, This is when you applaud for yourself.
I did it. I made it. I made it here. Thank you for having me. I feel like a lot of the guests that you have like really distinguished CVs. They're like industry insiders, and I have no comment. I have nothing. I'm so sorry in advance.
Well, we forgive you, we're so happy our audience does too.
Darren, we have a very, very fun movie to pitch you today. I want Seth to be able to reveal the title because it's the best part of the pitch.
Well, first let's tell you what our assignment is.
Yes. Okay. So today we developed a horror movie, and the tone was laughed out loud funny. And the target audience was fans of John Carpenter, which I assume that you are, like us. And the studio mandate was actually that it needed to be a direct sequel to the hit 1996 action movie starring Mario Van Peebles, Solo, which I assume you haven't seen.
I have not seen that movie.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Do you remember?
Oh, yeah, I know Solo.
I knew you wouldn't let me down.
We have not seen Solo yet.
None of us have seen it. Great. So we're developing a sequel to a film that none of us have seen.
I should also mention, halfway through the show, we got a wild card mandate, which was that Disney actually bought the studio that we were developing the movie for, and they requested that we incorporate some sort of IP property that Disney owns so that it could sort of be looped into, an existing cinematic universe as Disney does. And so we actually, this is what brings us to our title.
So today we're very excited to pitch you John Carpenter's The Computer Wore Jordans. That's it. So, no.
Which is actually a direct sequel to both 1996's Solo and 1969's The Computer Wore Tennis Shoes, starring Kurt Russell.
Right.
Paul, you want to dive into set the scene, or do you want me to?
Sure. Yes, I can set the scene. So basically, our movie takes place in a remote jungle in Vietnam. Solo, played by Mario Van Peebles. If you don't know, we discovered that at the end of the 1996 movie, he was left to die basically in this cave that collapsed on him, and they left him to die. But he actually survived, and he realized that I can live my life in freedom now, away from this government organization. And so for the past 25 years, he's been living his life in this jungle, this village in Vietnam, basically silently protecting the people of this village and living out a life with friends. And he's sort of just like, he wanted to live a quiet life. So that's where we join Solo, who is now he's a cyborg, android. I don't know if you knew that, but Solo.
I don't know how many liberties you're taking here with the Solo project, or if this is all borrowed material from the original film. But I'm just going to pretend like you guys are just riffing off of this idea.
It's a direct sequel to Solo.
Sequel. Yeah, so
it's straight from the Wikipedia page of Mario Van Peebles' Solo.
Yeah, we're jumping off right where it ended. So he's been in this jungle, and I
will correct that he's been in a Central American jungle, an undisclosed one, not in Vietnam.
Sorry,
I do believe those are different.
It looked like that in the trailer. It just straight up looked like Vietnam in movies. But Central America.
Jungle and dirt.
And we find him 25 years later, and because he's a robot and he was made to look like a human, he's actually aging like a mechanical robot. So his skin is sort of decomposing, and his mechanical parts are rusty and not moving right. He's getting old, so to speak. He's getting too old for this shit.
Well, we don't actually get a good look at it though, right? Because the idea is that he's full on like trench coat and like hood. Like we're imagining like a Deckard from Blade Runner meets Darkman kind of style.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Cool.
So we're not really getting a good look at him, except for when we choose to have him take any of the stuff off. But for the most part, he's fully covered and mysterious, and that also allows the opportunity for Mario Van Peebles to reprise the role and not worry about de-aging him in any specific points.
Yeah, and I feel like this is right in the Carpenter wheelhouse with Memoirs of an Invisible Man. I feel like he did a lot of this sort of motif.
Yeah, dude, I love this. Please be on our podcast.
We haven't mentioned that project at all. Which is fun.
And it's actually very good.
Which is spot on.
The less said, the better.
But yeah, so we'll get some sort of body horror elements the first time that he actually reveals his face, because we kind of it's like that sort of Terminator, skin is sort of, anyways. So he's in this remote jungle, and throughout our first act, there's these gruesome murders that are happening around the village
we've established that he protects the village, right?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I tuned out, so I'm making sure that we covered that.
You whirlied?
I whirlied. I do it occasionally.
So he's sort of the silent protector of this jungle, and he basically every night he recharges. He doesn't sleep, but he recharges. And so while he's charging every night, there are these gruesome murders that are happening around the village, and he wakes up to find these dead villagers, and he's sort of investigating it like a detective, trying to figure out what's happening. And we sort of get a glimpse. We see these scenes of this veiled figure that are killing these people. What's next, Seth?
Well, the idea is the whole first act essentially is like a contained detective story of him investigating this series of murders. Come to find out that it seems that whoever's committing these murders is actually looking for him, and it's only until like toward the end of Act 1 where, we have that shitty 90s CRT robot vision of him like scanning people, and he locates a cybernetic or robotic person, and it's a robot played by Javier Bardem, who is the one we recognize from some kind of iconic like wardrobe piece or something that like this is the unseen figure that's been murdering people, and they proceed to have a showdown that lasts like roughly 15 minutes or so. We're thinking like they live length of fight, and it beats the living crap out of Solo to the point to where he's accepting death, and then a figure with a whole with a figure with a whole bunch of gadgets and tech like swoops in and saves him. Doesn't destroy the Javier Bardem robot, but manages to help Solo escape from him. And this figure is Dexter Riley, played by Kurt Russell from the Computer Wore Tennis Shoes, the grown-up character.
I thought that was a joke earlier. Nope. I can't believe that's real. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's the same character that we saw as a teenager in 1969.
This was a mandate. Like the studio required it must tie to an established Disney property. So we've gone all in on the Computer Wore Tennis Shoes.
What a convergence of properties.
Yes, but we thought it was perfect because John Carpenter would be directing this movie. Kurt Russell, we get reuniting. We decided.
But what's fun is we get to have Kurt Russell play like a grown-up nerd. Like he's not like the typical, the prototypical
Snake
like exaggerated masculine male lead that he has been in other Carpenter films. Here he gets to be kind of the anti-Kurt Russell. If you will.
Definitely. And so the rest of our movie, we basically have this AJ Arno character from, we should mention the bad guy is actually, so the villain from Computer Wore Tennis Shoes, played by Cesar Romero, is named AJ Arno. And he's this sort of mustache twirling villain who, I never saw the movie, so I don't really know much about him.
Well, but he's described as a technology-based crime boss, which I don't know what that means.
And so he basically, before he died, he consulted the government organization that created Solo, and he had basically a cyborg body double created of himself. So when he died, he could live on as a robot. And so we actually have
just Javier Bardem.
Yes, played by Javier Bardem. And it's this, and he's actually trying to find Solo to kill him. And I don't think we figured out the reason behind it, Seth.
I think he's come back up on the government's radar, and they're using their AJ Arno.
Oh yes,
robot to get him. But Dexter Riley, Kurt Russell's character, has known about Solo. He's been on his radar because the idea is that, Dexter Riley is aware of. He was in this character was in 3 Disney films that took place at the fictional Medfield College. The Computer Wore Tennis Shoes, Now You See Him, Now You Don't, and The Strongest Man in the World, all of which are these like science-based comedies. So the idea that this character would grow up to be
villain.
Yeah, this with AJ Arno as the villain in all of them, he would grow up to be this like kind of mad scientist / philanthropist. Would be pretty cool, but he's got all of these robotic science fiction characters on his radar, and the idea is that they are, this is not for this film, but for the future, and we'll hint at it, that they are from various Disney properties, other robot-based characters throughout that they could come into this world, or any studio that Disney buys.
That's the post-credit scene right there.
Yes.
It's like him and Baymax like meeting up.
Right.
So the idea is though is that Solo is a robot who developed a conscience in the first Solo film, and so like he is obviously like an important figure in this world, and someone who Dexter Riley has decided it's time for me to swoop in and save this figure and keep him alive.
Yeah, and basically throughout the entire film, this AJ Arno robot is sort of this looming presence who's always he'll stop at nothing to kill Solo once and for all and start the AI robot. He wants to kill them all, and so he's basically, we have Solo, who is this aging robot who's ready to die. He's lived a life. He has these human emotions now, and he sort of felt like, maybe it's my time to go. Then we have the AJ Arno robot who's trying to kill him. And then we have Dexter Riley, who is this character who, he became a computer back in his college days. He knows a lot about technology. He is sort of inspired. He's almost like a Steve Jobs type, where he's like very futuristic and inspired by, finds hope in these new technologies. And so he looks to Solo sort of like this, Seth us playing the trailer for you.
I will. I'm just having it ready.
But he sort of looks to Solo for inspiration because he's like you represent hope, you represent humanity sort of evolving, and you're a robot that grew a conscience and has emotions like this. So he's like trying to protect him and basically
helping Solo
him
understand his own self-worth in the process.
And so that's our story. And then of course by the end we have Solo evolve, do a bunch of backflips to defeat AJ Arno to fight another day.
Yeah, and again, also with our tone being laugh out loud funny, it's important to point out a big thing that I'm not sure we leaned on. Maybe you talked about it earlier when I whirlied, but there's a specific clip from this trailer. By the way, this trailer's a masterpiece. Time for a recall.
Yeah, we should also mention that Solo only speaks in one-liners.
Only one-liners, because that's all he was programmed with.
It's a serious situation on our hands.
Here we go. This moment here, inexplicable flipping, where not efficient at all, and we're led to believe that the idea that like we could do a movie where a character malfunctions and can only move by backflipping for an entire sequence. This is the movie where that can happen.
Yeah.
Comedy gold.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I mean.
So, yeah.
But yeah, that's basically our movie, and I think it's important for us to sort of have that really campy John Carpenter action movie tone, while also sort of having this mustache twirling villain that's also just gruesomely murdering people, like kind of way too gory throughout the film to give us our horror element. But really, it's a horror comedy with a lot of action. So I guess, I mean, in the vein of They Live, I guess you could call that a horror movie if you look at it in the right, Anyways, that's the movie. That's John Carpenter's
The Computer Wore Jordans.
I love it.
Did we mention even in the pitch though, which I'm sure you assumed and you understood, is that Solo was a super soldier built and was asked to choose his identity, and he pointed at a commercial of Michael Jordan and said like Mike, and therefore they made him a bald black man. That is, you know that, right? That's the origin. Yes, it's in the friggin' trailer, and I'm going to share my screen one more time. We left that part out. It's very important.
Is so niche.
This episode. So
perfect.
Here, I'll play it. Hopefully you can hear it.
All right, buddy. It's time to pick a face. Like Mike. You got good taste.
So he essentially makes him a bald black man because he wants to look like Michael Jordan.
You got good taste.
That's amazing.
Which is
again, the lines between like my familiarity with these properties and like what you guys are coming up with, it's so blurred. It's just there's so much ambiguity between what is real and what isn't. It's all equally absurd.
That's why
an astonishing amount of it is real, is canon for both of these IPs.
Well, and it's important for us and the studio to have a direct sequel to these old movies while also feeling like a standalone movie that new audiences will love. So we're just assuming that, like us, nobody else has seen these movies.
Yeah, I think that's a good assumption.
So that brings us to, well, first off, do you have any questions about the property? We can talk as long as you want about it, and then we have 4 questions to ask you.
So, yeah, I do have a question. So They Live had kind of this, held a lens up to the viewer. It had kind of a comment on consumerism. There was like a lot of satire there. Any element of that in the screenplay here?
Yes. Yeah, definitely. Do you want us to expand on it, or?
No, that's it. Just wanted to make sure that you guys.
Yeah, we'd love it. We'd love it. Less anti-consumerism, anti-capitalism, and more anti-government. We sort of want the villain. The grand scheme of it, the villain is the government entity that is controlling this robot, trying to kill Solo, who had basically the first movie. It was about him gaining freedom from this government entity that was controlling him, and this movie is him like trying to keep that freedom, basically. How, I don't know. Seth, do you want to expand on how those messages will be conveyed?
No, just that I believe they should be. We, obviously in the time that we had to not only develop this idea, but also read the Wikipedia pages of both properties.
Which is most of the episode.
We did have a brief discussion that we were talking about the traits of John Carpenter, like what makes a John Carpenter film a John Carpenter film. And we talked about elements of paranoia and kind of a looming threat that is either among us or ever present. the aesthetic of lesser resources, one might say, than like larger properties, and the way that his films lean into those shortcomings to create what only John Carpenter can create.
Parodies of cool guys, basically, as the protagonist.
Oh yeah, yes, like essentially a parody of the masculine like 80s male hero. And then the big thing was the like anti-government, anti-capitalist, satirical slant on many of these stories as well. So that said, that is a goal of ours. Were were the studio to greenlight this and we get to write it, 100% that'd be a priority, is to make it current in its
and of course,
those ideas.
John is doing the soundtrack as well.
Yeah.
Is he direct? Like, is this a John Carpenter directed? Like, is he at the helm here, or is he
John
still
Carpenter. He's in the title.
Is he like
whatever
like,
gets
there
us?
are things I feel like he could just like slap his name up on, as an executive producer, and he's still just like smoking weed, playing video games, and fiddling around with his keyboard. That's like John Carpenter in the year 2021.
Yeah,
we were just talking about that, about how much we love 2021 John Carpenter. It's like
playing NBA 2K and cashing in those checks.
Honestly, whatever gets his name above it and whatever we can get him to do. Clearly, we can get him and his son to score it based on, other people's ability to get him and his son to score it. It would be wonderful if we had him on as a writer and especially as a director as well. As much Carpenter as he'll give us. Please welcome John Carpenter. No, I'm kidding.
Imagine if this is how he announced his next project, which is
on our dumb little podcast.
A Disney-produced sequel to 1996's Solo.
And it's news to everyone. To him, to Disney, Mario Van Peebles.
It's our Make-A-Wish. Is John Carpenter.
This specific thing.
Darren, I have 4 questions for you.
Yes.
From 1 to 10, how likely are you to see this movie?
10 being
the most. I'm there.
This is a 10. I'm day one, butt in seat. This is my kind of movie.
Okay.
You're a huge Computer Wore Tennis Shoes fan.
Love it.
How likely are you to recommend this movie, 1 to 10, to a friend?
Honestly, I'm going a high 10. I mean, I think it depends on how well, anytime. So if Carpenter's really getting back in the saddle, that's like easy.
If he's directing,
like me recommending it's not going to do. It's I'm not going to have any kind of sway here.
I think his last movie to direct was The Ward. Did you ever see that?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It was good.
I thought it wasn't bad. I mean, it was definitely more thoughtfully crafted, I thought, than like Ghosts of Mars, which was a very run-of-the-mill.
It looked more Hollywood than a lot of his movies.
It's actually the baseline for how Darren evaluates all films, is compares them to Ghost of Mars.
Okay, so with our assignment in mind, a laugh out loud horror movie for fans of John Carpenter that is a sequel to Solo and a Disney IP. How well do you think we adhered to the assignment, 1 to 10?
I'm going to go with a 7. And I'll explain why. So I think you nailed almost all of it. I think it's going to be difficult to find comedy in some of the plot elements. So like protecting a village, I'm getting like Seventh Samurai vibes there. It's hard to like get comedy out of like helpless poor people in a village whose lives are constantly under threat. I mean, backflipping to get away from things at all times is like.
I'm really sorry to laugh at that, but there's this idea of like these poor villagers for some reason are being attacked constantly by random people. It's like maybe he should move away from this village.
Maybe you're doing more harm than good.
Oh man. Yeah, okay, 7. That's incredibly fair. And then our last question is, from 1 to 10, how would you rate our overall idea?
I'm going to go with an 8 on the overall idea. I think there's some strong, it's honestly the mental gymnastics it must have taken to combine the two properties that
was actually an easier part. Like we were struggling with the story until we found, we can incorporate this character from this obscure Disney movie from the 60s.
Because the thing is with these ideas is they tend to be, you'd think that like the less specific the mandates would be, the more like easier it would be for us to like make something good, but like it just creates generic it just creates generic ideas and story. Whereas when we're told to create like a body horror film for children, it's like, well, that's a very specific film. There's about one movie we could possibly make, and we're going to have to do some work to find it. It's a lot easier to hone in on that kind of thing. So when it was like, it's got to be tied to a Disney movie, before that, it was just like kind of becoming a generic, like we don't know who the bad guy is and why they're even doing anything. Right. But then when it was like, okay, let's come behind a Disney movie, we can pull their bad guy and we can pull their good guy and actually give it some meat, so to speak.
And the sequel is actually going to be Solo meets Mars Needs Moms. I think it's what we talked about. That was Seth was just over here shouting out random Disney movies at me. So
good. I wondered what the thought process was there and how you landed.
Googling. It was just, mainly it was like, I was like, what about the Cupid wore tennis shoes? He's like, I've never seen that. I was like, oh, dude, it's got Kurt Russell in it. And that kind of allowed us to land because it's about Kurt Russell becoming gaining the knowledge of a computer. It was like, well, okay, that is similar. It's in a similar space, different genre, but similar space. Your ratings, by the way, were very, very generous, I feel. What is that, 35 points?
35 points, baby. 35 and 40.
Is that a green light? That feels like a green light.
I feel like it's a green light.
I feel like it is.
Yeah. Now we just got to get John Carpenter on the phone. The Writers' Room Game Show with me, Ryan Pollard, and Seth Worley. Executive produced by Grant Wakefield at Weekend Video and Ann Fogerty at Plot Devices. Edited to perfection by Rene Gomez. Our art is by your buddy, Meg Lewis, and our face-melting music is by Ben Worley. The Writers' Room Game Show is a Weekend Video production in association with Plot Devices. Learn more about Weekend Video at weekend.video and check out writersroomgame.show to listen to all of our episodes and suggest your own prompts for future shows. And don't forget to rate and review our show on Apple Podcasts. It really helps our show out a lot. See you in the next one.